We need sustainable landscapes for their ability to reduce water demand, to filter and reduce stormwater runoff, to provide wildlife habitat, to reduce energy consumption, improve air quality and human health, and increase outdoor recreation opportunity.
Hey everybody, I'm Candace Shigley with Utah State University Extension and the Center for Water Efficient Landscaping, and you are watching our Water Well with CWEL webinar series.
Well, thank you all for the invitation. As you heard, I'm Paul Wessel. I'm in New Haven, Connecticut, and I am a director for market development for the U.S. Green Building Council. USGBC is most widely known for LEED certification of buildings, but has, through its affiliated entity, GBCI, has a series of certifications for microgrids, for parking structures, around zero waste, and around landscapes. And we're here today to talk about the landscape program, sites. Angela, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Ardis, and I am a program associate for GBCI, which is, as Paul said, the certification arm of USGBC. And specifically for the Sustainable Sites Initiative, I'm on the operations side, working with project teams through the certification process. And we're excited to be speaking with you all today and hopefully getting you familiar with sites.
Great, thanks, Angela. So today we want to give you an overview about sites, talk a little bit about the elements of the sites program for around water, because we know that's a concern of yours. Focus, talk about some project examples and give you some resources, and then hopefully have a good discussion with you all. So just by way of background and an overview, open spaces, or landscapes as we like to consider them, really, as you know, knit together the fabric of our communities. And we need sustainable landscapes for their ability to reduce water demand, to filter and reduce stormwater runoff, to provide wildlife habitat, to reduce energy consumption, improve air quality and human health, and increase outdoor recreation opportunities. So these are all things that we try and do through sites, and sites is a certification program, which we'll get into in a minute. But it's really a project grounded in the understanding that any landscape, whether it be the site of a large subdivision, a shopping mall, a park, an office building, or even a single home, any landscape can deliver the benefits and the services provided by natural ecosystems in their undeveloped state. And these benefits, including the supply and regulation of clean water, the provision of food and renewable resources, the decomposition of waste, these we know are essential to the health and well-being of us as humans, and also to all other life on the planet. So from our perspective, simply put, landscapes are living systems that serve or should serve as the world's natural infrastructure. So how we treat the land, from streetscapes and parks to corporate campuses and educational institutions, really determines our resilience to climate change, how clean our water is, how cool our cities are, and how mentally and physically healthy we are. So sites is a certification tool, and as such, it bundles together 68 best practices for the design, construction, and maintenance of sustainable, resilient landscapes into a clear step-by-step package. Owners, municipalities, developers, project teams, and communities agree up front that sustainability and resilience is a goal for their development project. And sites lays out a field-tested process for getting there. Project teams select which approaches they want to embrace, though some are required by the program, and GBCI, Green Business Certification, Inc., who Angela works for, provides third-party validation of the work. And the program includes benchmarks for performance and, like LEED, recognizes achievement through certification levels. And Angela will go into more details on this. And ultimately, the goal of sites is to maximize the benefits inherent in the land, to deliver ecosystem services or nature-based solutions, which has been getting a lot of play lately, that are often overlooked or even worse, value engineered out in development projects. So sites has been adopted as a regulatory tool at multiple government levels. The GSA has embraced it as a standard for its development projects. So we're certifying a number of courthouses across the country, as well as land ports of entry that the GSA is building. The state of Rhode Island embraced it in its Green Buildings Act back in 2017. And a number of municipalities are looking at it as a guiding framework, and it's been adopted by the Atlanta Beltline in Atlanta, obviously. And it's functioning in this way because it helps to deliver the sustainability goals desired through a required focus, through clear standards and third-party verification, as Christian Gabriel at the GSA points out here. So it's proven to be an effective tool. And as Kevin Burke at the Atlanta Beltline notes, sites ensures that we deliver both on the immediate needs of projects, but also the long term. And as we know, the long term can often get overlooked or cast aside due to the immediacies of the moment. So for more specifically how sites can help support CWEL's mission of water conservation through environmentally, socially, and economically sound landscape management practices, I'm going to turn it over to Angela. Angela?
Great, thank you, Paul. All right, so here you can see a summary of sites projects, should give you a nice big picture. To date, we have over 240 projects participating with sites covering over 770 million square feet. These projects cover 40 US states and Washington, DC, as well as the 15 countries that you see listed here. The chart shows a breakdown of the various project types that are applying and certifying the sites. And then, so this is the general outline of the Sites V2 rating system. It consists of 10 sections, each containing prerequisites and credits used for measuring site sustainability. The rating system's focus is on providing performance measures rather than prescriptive practices in each of the categories shown. And under the site design water section of the rating system are these three key focuses. Sites projects capture and manage all precipitation that collects on site, and specifically they must retain volume from the 60th percentile precipitation event with stormwater management and maintenance strategies. Projects reduce or in some cases completely eliminate their reliance on outdoor water use for landscape irrigation. And lastly, sites projects can implement a restoration plan for damaged or degraded aquatic ecosystems on site, which can in turn contribute to the first two goals of the water section. So the rating system asks a couple key questions concerning water. The first is, as I mentioned, can the project handle the 60th percentile event? Can the project find opportunities for rainwater harvesting and reuse? Can it use that rainwater to create new aquatic ecosystems? And can the project redirect or maximize water to protect local ecosystems? So just keep these questions in mind as I go over three sites project case studies that manage water in very resilient and innovative ways. So this one may look familiar to you. It's in Utah, but the Swanner Eco Center provides visitors a starting point to experience the 1,200-acre Swanner Preserve through a variety of environmental education programs. In 2010, ownership and oversight of the Preserve and Eco Center were transferred to Utah State University. Acres of wetlands are protected through conservation easements and provide better water quality and a habitat for an abundance of local wildlife. The rainwater collection system utilizes a cistern and has eliminated the need for potable water use for irrigation and flushing toilets in the building. And as you may know, this is an impressive feature in a state that averages less than 12 inches of precipitation per year. And Blue Hole Regional Park is a 126-acre green space that features a swimming spot on Cypress Creek in Texas's karst landscape. Since its opening, Blue Hole has recovered from 5 floods of up to 27 feet in depth. In the wake of the tragic 2015 Memorial Day flood, where 12 lives were lost, the park remained resilient without plant loss or damage to hardscape materials or amenities. And this was achieved through 10 micro-detention ponds connected by bioswales and rain gardens that slowed, filtered, and drained stormwater before it entered Cypress Creek. In addition, a 2,900-gallon cistern on site serves as a reminder to visitors that water is a precious resource in a land that's prone to both seasonal flooding and droughts. Right, and the last project I want to show you guys is the Suwei Runway Park. It's a green space in the middle of a new mixed-use development area on the riverfront in Shanghai, China. It was previously a runway for an airport, and the park utilizes the runway's linear design, as you can see, to create a place for people to move throughout the city via bikes, vehicles, and transit. In 2015, China launched its Sponge City initiative, with the goal of 80% of its cities absorbing or reusing 70% of rainwater. In the past several decades, China has faced major issues of flooding due to rapid urbanization, bringing with it expansive impervious surface cover. Runway Park solves this problem by retaining and reusing stormwater in a 5,800 square meter rain garden and an 8,000 square meter wetland. After treatment, the collected water irrigates the park and supplies water to the fountain. Native plants and soils on the site absorb and infiltrate rainwater as well, reducing runoff that can lead to destructive flooding events. Right, and then I'm going to pass it back to Paul, and he's going to talk to you guys about some resources so that if you want to learn more, you can. So yeah.
All right, that was a great overview, Angela. Thank you. So we want to talk about how you can learn more about the program. First off is our website, sustainablesites.org, has a wealth of information. You can download for free a copy of the rating system. This is the reference guide, which is more than the rating system, but a lot of what the program entails is in there. And there's a great scorecard, which is really helpful. And I'll come back to this slide at the end when we want to talk about more about the specifics. But the scorecard shows to you in those 10 different areas that Angela was telling you about, the different elements of the program, right? USGBC has an impressive educational program. A number of offerings around sites are up on the website. Oh, I did put a bit.ly link to these specific courses. Some of them require you to register and be a member, but many of them are free. So that's another place that you can get information about the program. And so now we want to open it up for you guys. I guess we were kind of short on the presentation, but it's what we had planned to talk about. And we really want to hear what you think about this program, whether you know about, had heard about sites, or whether this could be useful to you in your work. We're interested, part of my job is to reach out to decision makers and owners about the benefits of sites so that project teams have the opportunity to use the program and talk about the important elements of landscape development that are embedded in sites. We'd love your guidance and wisdom about how we might do that if it's a useful tool. So why don't we open it up now for discussion, questions, comments, and with the caveat that neither Angela nor I are subject matter experts on sites. We have a number of people who are involved in administering the program on a day-to-day basis and developing it, but they're not on this webinar. So if there are questions that we can't answer, we're happy to take them down and get back to you. So I'll turn it open to you guys.
Great, thank you guys. And maybe just to help facilitate this conversation, if anyone would like to use their voice instead of typing a response to the question that they're asking in the chat box or using the Q&A, just use the raise your hand feature, and I can click a little button here that'll allow you to talk.
Okay, and I see some of the questions popping up, so I'm happy to get started on them. I've looked at Envision. The question was, how do sites compare to Envision? Envision is a certification program for infrastructure, and sites is specialized specifically around landscapes. It emerged out of work at the Wildflower Center in Austin, and a number of other organizations. So it came out of the industry, and in part because, and this goes to the second question that was raised, is this an outgrowth of LEED efforts? There was a feeling that LEED has worked well for buildings in the built environment, or buildings, things that are constructed and occupied, but didn't serve landscapes well, parks, athletic fields, or corporate campuses, and that there was something that landscape architects could do that would be a good program that would be modeled on LEED's approach to the built environment, but would be specific to landscapes. USGBC was emerged about 25 years ago, specifically to certify buildings. And one of its goals was to transform how the marketplace worked for construction, and it has largely done that. Things that were novel 25 years ago are now commonplace, thinking about energy consumption, water consumption, the health of buildings. And there was a feeling on some of the leaders of the USGBC and GBCI that we needed to expand our ability to impact the marketplace. And some of the programs, there are elements of sites that are now recognized in LEED, and elements of LEED that are now recognized in sites. So we have a number of projects where the buildings are certified by LEED, and some of the work on the land around the buildings is, I'm sorry, somebody just asked, restate our understanding of what sustainable means. That's a good one. So we'll get to that in a minute. Some projects want to embrace both programs, as well as our zero waste program, or as well as our program specific to parking structures. So we were acquired and embraced by USGBC and GBCI as part of expanding our impact on the world. And in some ways, this may, over time, get incorporated into LEED. LEED may expand to include unoccupied built environments. And in some ways, we're a way of engaging the market and seeing where there's value and where there's interest. Sean Moser asked, what are the ways that this program is being promoted and marketed to architects, contractors, stakeholders? I hadn't heard about it until just the other day. So we're glad, Sean, that you heard about it the other day. And this is one of the ways that we're marketing the program. USGBC has been very focused on LEED, and the new offerings, Park Smart sites, zero waste, Peer for microgrids. We've been trying to figure out, both as startup programs within GBCI and USGBC, and as the organization as a whole, what the best way is to market them. So we've done a lot of work with the American Society of Landscape Architects. We're deepening our engagement with them. We're heading down to their conference in Nashville, and we're trying to figure out how better to promote it. And we're all ears if you have ideas about how we can do that. Candace, did you want to say something about this as well, or did I misread your note? Okay. All right, Angela, you want to take a stab at what sustainability means to us, and then I can add to it.
Yeah, and I do also want to add back to the LEED piece as well. I just wanted to add that we have a lot of resources available on specifically the synergies between sites and LEED, because many do exist. And like Paul said, we actually have lots of projects that pursue both sites and LEED synonymously. We have many sites and LEED certified projects that you know, are very, very cool, very interesting. And if you want to take a look, we have more case studies on our website that you can learn about how those two rating systems synergize. And then also to the question after the LEED question, how we market sites, I did want to bring up our community partners as well. I think that's definitely deserves mentioning. We partner with you know, design firms and basically anybody that might be interested in pursuing sites and also marketing sites for themselves. So it's sort of a partnership that we have there. We have our page of community partners on our website. Did you want to add anything else to that, Paul?
We're also doing, and thank you for that, Angela. We're also doing bi-monthly sites community calls where we have people talk about their projects and how they pursued them, why they pursued them. If you go to our webpage, at the very bottom, you can sign up for our mailing list and get informed about that. Yeah, so I'm trying to get up the information on the community partners so you can see who some of those are. But in the meantime, Angela, you want to take a stab at how we define sustainability?
Sure. I will say that USGBC defines sustainability with our 4 pillars. And I believe those are resilience, health and wellness, sustainability, and equity. So I think USGBC ties these 4 ideas together really well. And that's sort of our mission. But also I do want to add to the community calls. We had a really cool project come on last time talking about a site certified meerkat exhibit at the zoo in John Ball Zoo. It was very, very cool. So definitely check that out if you get a chance.
Okay, I'm hoping you can see on my screen some of the site's community partners. Basically, these are organizations that support the goals of sites and are willing to promote it on their websites. And we look to these organizations as a resource for the development of the program, both technically and for how to promote it. And so it's a pretty easy ask. It doesn't cost anything, but it's a way of showing who our community is. And you know, Angela's very good on our talking points about our definition of sustainability. Much better than I am, and she nailed it. But I've worked for USGBC for 5 years. I think this notion of sustainability is evolving for us, and I think for the rest of the world. I think clearly resilience is important. Clearly health and wellness is important. Around COVID, you know, there was a lot of emphasis on what does the built environment need to do to provide a healthy and safe workplace. In the real estate world, it used to be, are you LEED certified? If you're a big accounting firm or a hedge fund looking for a Class A office space in a downtown somewhere. And increasingly, it's about health and wellness of the space in the building. People want to know about that. And so we've been attempting to evolve the programs in response to the needs of the marketplace. I think early on, there was a lot of focus about energy use and water consumption. I think we have a renewed focus about air quality in buildings. And I think stormwater runoff is a larger issue than it used to be in resiliency. And our programs are responding and evolving in that way, which is as it should be, and is pretty cool. All right, Tamara asked, in Utah, there are legal limits to rainwater harvesting without a dedicated water right. How does SITE's program take something like this into account? I don't know the answer to that question. Angela, do you know?
I don't know specifically the answer, but I do know that in the SITE's rating system, there are a lot of caveats for basically local code and things like that. So it's really on a case-by-case basis. But I can say for the Swanner Eco Center, I did some research on that. And I know that one of the challenges of that project was actually that the Park City had no existing, Park City in Utah, sorry, had no existing codes on how to handle a cistern. And so the project team for that project worked with the city to establish guidelines for cisterns. So that's pretty cool, but it's really on a case-by-case basis. And that's really the best answer that I could give there.
So we didn't talk about the fee structure. To register for sites and go through the process of certification is a combined fee of $6,500. So it's not huge. That's potentially a barrier to projects. I think documentation is sometimes a barrier to projects. And starting early enough is another barrier. There's a whole integrated design process, which is central to the program, central to making sure that the team functions as a team and takes advantage of all the opportunities on the site. But it's actually it's a pretty accessible program. And we're wondering what you think about whether this could be helpful, particularly around the water issues that you all care about on projects that you're working on or are aware of, and whether we should market to people you're working with and how we might best do that. So we'd welcome your input on that.
I have a question on that. Like,
Yeah.
how flexible is the term site? Like, if you're a contractor developing a subdivision and you choose to go this route with all the landscapes within that subdivision, would that whole subdivision be considered a site?
Go ahead, Angela, and then I'll add on.
Sure. So I was just going to say that typically what can qualify under sites is basically everything from the building skin outwards. But with that being said, we've had sites projects that are just simply a green roof. So it's technically outside of the building skin, but it's also part of the building. So there's a lot of variety in the sites projects that we have. And yeah, sorry, Paul, you can add on.
Yeah, we've had a lot of interest from the Middle East, and we've worked on some huge residential development projects. And the project is essentially looks like Swiss cheese in terms of the project area, because the residential development is going to be done individually by property owners. We think they're going to require LEED certification, but the development itself, the landscape is developed and managed centrally. And so there are things that the development team could control and focus on, and there are things that would be left to a later date. And so we've had to figure out how to do that. And we attempt to be flexible. We try to be reasonable. And as in any regulatory framework, sometimes you can bend a little and accommodate projects, and sometimes we're asked to bend more than we're comfortable with. But we really do strive, partly because we're a new program and we're still figuring it out. We really do strive to be responsive to the individual marketplace.
Gotcha. So you've mentioned the Middle East, and then you also showed the example in China. What is the reach of this program?
So we reach internationally. We have projects in India. We have projects in Latin America. There's been interest in a number of residential developments. I don't quite understand why. Particularly sort of high-end gated communities have seek to certify with sites. We're sort of testing out where the market is on this. So somebody asked about other sites projects being evaluated within developed areas. So this is, again, on our website, we have a directory, and these are a number of the projects. Avenue of the Stars in Hong Kong, the Columbus U.S. Land Port of Entry in Columbus, New Mexico. That's a GSA project. I didn't know what a land port of entry was before I encountered this. The Gulf State Park Lodge in Alabama, which is funded with BP oil spill money. We have a community call that talked about that, just extraordinary. A variety of parks, Colby College in Maine athletic fields, a college recycling center in Costa Mesa, Chicago Navy Pier, which was also a fascinating project, which actually they needed, let's see if we have, I can't remember what pictures we have here. They needed a certain content in the brickwork for the pier, and they actually, I forget what the company is, but they made them change their mix to meet the site standards, and the company is now marketing that as a more sustainable form of brick. So it was, one of our goals is transforming the way the market works, and we were successful in this project in doing that, which was a great story. So again, Bartoli Park at the U.S. Botanic Garden, they were involved in developing the program. A number of local Parks Department projects have registered for sites. And I think my guess would be that the ability to help keep some of the value engineering at bay might be one of the things that has motivated them. That anybody who's worked on public sector projects knows the budgets often snowball and the money gets tighter and tighter. It's probably true on any project, but I think particularly in the public sector. So if you get people to commit early on to meeting the goals of and pursuing sites certification, which local elected officials often like, embracing that concept, it's a helpful way to make sure the kinds of things that you want to do as a landscape architect or an engineer or designer, builder on projects, you can really do. Looking at some of the other projects here, National Renewable Energy Lab in Golden, Colorado. It's a LEED certified building. They wanted their grounds to match the quality of their building. Some corporate headquarters, Novus International headquarters, Oftentimes it's the landscape architect who will bring the certification to the owner's awareness and sell them on the approach. And I think that's been great. It was really early on in LEED's life, it was really architects that sold developers on it. So part of our affiliation with the Society of Landscape Architects is to continue to provide resources to help landscape architects do that. What else do we have here? Angela, is there any project in particular you want to talk some about?
No, I think the one that's just in my mind, because we just had the community call on it, is of course the meerkat exhibit. I think it's just very fun, and the meerkats are very cute. Yeah, that's one of my favorite projects that was just certified very recently.
So one of the things that was interesting about that is Eamon, I'm trying to remember his last name, who is the facilities manager, was a really smart guy about how you develop zoos and exhibits, said that they had always embraced best practices, but they had never certified any of their projects before this. And they were excited for them to be the first zoo that would be site certified. And I think he liked the idea of having that recognition and validation. I think he sold it to the management of the zoo. They were very excited about it. And we learned through his presentation that there's, and this goes to the marketing question, there's an association of zookeepers. Who knew, but right, it makes sense that there would be. And we want to work with them and work with Alman on telling the story of what they did at the John Ball Zoo and why they did it, and hopefully continue to help zoos be more sustainably developed. Any other questions or comments or words of advice for us? We always like advice.
This has been a really interesting presentation. For those that this is piquing some interest, next month we are hoping to get one of these sites or maybe a couple of them on the call to just share their experience and show you what they've done and why they did it, and answer questions from the implementation standpoint.
And we'd love, as well as letting Candace know about what music you want to hear next month, if there are projects that you like that are in our directory that you want to hear more about, definitely let Candace know, and we'll work with you guys on making sure that those projects can be featured here. Grant Park Gateway, I'm remembering now, we did a community call with them, and they were replacing a surface parking lot with a parking structure that was mostly buried underground, provided a new lawn area, a terrace area, and so we'd be able to accommodate more visitors at the park. This is in Atlanta. Provide more parking, but do it in a way that created more green space. And so they site certified the land. They Park Smart, which is our parking structure certification program, the parking structure. It was really an extraordinary presentation and a cool story, including they were held up because they needed to do this. They needed to, I think, move some trees, and there were strong advocates for leaving the trees alone, and so they had to engage in conversation with the community around sort of what they were doing was actually in advance for the park. There's some great signs up about save the trees that I loved in their presentation. so it has proved to be a useful tool to sort of moving development forward in a good way. And there are instances like this where you want to replace a surface parking lot, and you need to crack the eggs to make the omelet, and the outcome is much better. But you need a means of having discussions with people and demonstrating that the development that you're doing is not destructive, but is actually constructive over time.
Well, if there's nothing else, I just want to say thank you to Paul and Angela for sharing this with us. Really appreciate your time, and we'll see you all next month.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you.
You for the music suggestions. I'm excited. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.